The Objective News Network, New Jersey judges, lawyers, and the banks and mortgage fraud against the elderly. Hello, everyone. This is John Hnatio reporting for the Objective News Network. Welcome to today's broadcast. Suppose you were an elderly person, say somebody in your 80s. Your health is declining and you are officially disabled. You are an American hero, honorably discharged from the U.S. Army. You later rejoin the military with the U.S. Navy and get honorably discharged after your second enlistment. The stuff of American heroes. At least you would think so. At your age, you just barely get by on your monthly Social Security checks with no other income. And then you fall behind on your mortgage payments in the midst of the highest inflation rates in more than 40 years brought on by government overspending and the mishandling of the COVID-19 emergency in the United States. Then there's a banking crisis brought on by the failure of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC, for failing to stress test key banks across the country. Then, all of a sudden, the United States Office of Thrift, Supervision, or OTS, of the FDIC, seizes the bank that holds your mortgage to avert the spread of a national banking crisis brought on by the ineptness of the FDIC itself. You are terrified that after working your entire life, that the government is now going to take the only tangible thing you have left in your life, your house. Your health is already in decline, and the stress is taking a bad toll on you. After the bank holding your mortgage is seized by the FDIC, then the government turns around and sells your mortgage to the highest bidder, one of the largest holders of mortgage instruments in the whole nation. Your new bank then forces you, under threat of taking away your home, to renegotiate new terms for your mortgage loan rate at a new level you simply can no longer afford, at least in the long run. When you are unable to pay up, they immediately file in court to foreclose on your house. Of course, you live in a state where the politicians claim to be your best friends, proclaiming false promises that they will not allow mortgage fraud. But what do the politicians do when they are confronted with cases like this? Absolutely nothing. Now you are forced to turn to the courts when you can no longer afford a lawyer. You run right into a brick wall where judges and banks and bank lawyers intentionally disregard the facts as they push relentlessly forward to take your home away. Sounds like a fictional horror story, doesn't it? But unfortunately, it's not. This same story plays itself out in thousands and thousands of cases of mortgage fraud every year across the nation involving the mortgage lenders themselves. What I've shared with you is a true story of this man, Nicholas Purpura, who lives in Wall, New Jersey. Nick's first bank, Washington Mutual, was placed into receivership by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, way back in 2008. Washington Mutual was clearly not a well-run operation. Later, the government's Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation auctioned off Nick's mortgage to the highest bidder. In this case, it was the J.P. Morgan Chase Bank. Surely a risky business investment for J.P. Morgan Chase. In this case, trying to squeeze more blood out of the veins of an old sick man to force a foreclosure on his home. Wow, what a way to make money. But what's so amazing in this story is that J.P. Morgan Chase failed to do their homework on their risky and highly unethical, in fact, morally reprehensible plan. They ignored the rules and never told Nick that they didn't really own his house, as they extorted him to renegotiate his mortgage payment to a new level they already knew he could not pay in the long run. For years, Nick gave up the things that most of us normally enjoy and scrimped and sacrificed to faithfully pay his new mortgage every month. He paid J.P. Morgan Chase thousands and thousands of dollars to pay for his house, a house that J.P. Morgan Chase Bank never owned in the first place. It wasn't until years later that Nick found out that J.P. Morgan Chase did not, in fact, legally own his house. J.P. Morgan Chase did not have any paperwork showing that they actually owned his house. No bill of sale, no purchase and assumption agreement, or any of the other necessary paperwork that is legally required to prove that they own Nick's house in the first place. As Nick pressured the bank to provide the legally required documentation, he was confronted with forged documents. An analysis of the documents by handwriting experts confirmed that the signatures on the documents were intentionally forged. In many past stories, we have told you about the massive corruption of the courts in New Jersey, including the Supreme Court, the Superior Courts, and the Federal District Court of New Jersey, and a RICO enterprises of judges and lawyers who have rigged the system to create two sets of laws in New Jersey, one for them and one for the rest of us. The Institute for Complexity Management, a nonprofit organization, retains the indisputable evidence of the massive corruption in their National Investigative Library of Evidence, or NILE for short. For example, we talked about this woman, Leda Dunwetra, a magistrate judge in the Federal District Court of New Jersey, who committed fraud on the machinery of the court system when she attempted to cover up the violation of her boss's, Judge Madeline Cox Arleo's, violation of her oath to the U.S. Senate Committee on the Judiciary. Among other racketeering, influence, corrupt organization, or RICO crimes committed by Dunwetra include coercion and extortion, throwing of legal cases, multiple frauds upon the lawyer disciplinary machinery of the courts, and much, much more. You can see all of this evidence for yourself in the ICM NILE database. What's most interesting, however, is that Dunwetra has already been exposed as a member of a RICO enterprise that is engaged in the fixing of court cases to disallow victims from amending their legal cases to include any RICO legal cause of action in their cases. But lo and behold, when Nick Purpura tried to include a RICO cause of action in his case against J.P. Morgan Chase, what happened? Yes, that's right. It was Leda Dunwetra who fixed the case. At least two cases where the evidence demonstrates that she fixed legal cases to prevent the exposure of RICO predicate crimes to avoid her own exposure. Of course, in cases like these, there are always payoffs and kickbacks to friendly judges like Dunwetra to do what they do. The Objective News Network will continue our investigation of Dunwetra and the massive mortgage fraud taking place in the state of New Jersey against innocent and, for the most part, helpless senior citizens. This is John Hnatio reporting for the Objective News Network. It is what it is for Monday, July 10th, 2023. We want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe and tell your friends about us. Here at ONN, we believe in old-fashioned investigative reporting so that you can find out the real truth. Without truth, there can be no meaningful change to ferret out the corruption. Please share your comments and ideas with us. We'll see you the next time.